Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Third and final video today. Kaitlyn Bristowe responds to haters. Now, I covered this story yesterday on Bachelor Rush Hour, the afternoon podcast, but it deserves its own video as others have followed suit. Now, of course, we're talking about the war that has broken out in Israel. We've already discussed it at length, but we'll continue to discuss it as it, affects the world. So it's a worldly conversation that's happening out there. There is a battle between Hamas, a terrorist organization. They've committed what some are calling a 9/11 and Pearl Harbor combined as they attacked over the weekend innocent civilians in Israel. Now, there's a response to this from a pro-Palestinian crowd that sometimes says, and I'm careful with my words here because this isn't everybody, but some people say, well, they started it, or we've been living this way. And respectfully, there is a case to be made about the atrocities committed in both angles in the past. I say in the past because we can't live in a world that's, well, you started it, so we're going to do this. I mean, there are literal reports of dozens of babies being beheaded and elderly and women being raped and murdered and crazy, crazy, sad scenarios to the point where some people aren't educated on the topic. And I don't expect everybody to comment if you're not educated on the topic. It is a very complex discussion to be had. And we live in a very isolated place in North America where we are very far separated from what has been going on in the Middle East until the last several years with the, of course, increase in cell phone videos and things like that. So it is a absolute tragedy. The victims exist both in Israel and by the Palestinian people who did not ask for this. Again, it is a terrorist organization that is not looking for resolution. They are looking to stoke fear and divisiveness, and they're trying to get the Israeli military to push back in ways that then they can use to further their agenda. And it goes back and forth, folks, right? And it's very complicated to talk about because there are so many layers to it. I preface all of that by sharing what I'm going to share here, which is what some people in Bachelor Nation are saying. So we made a video a few days ago. We are no stranger to controversy on our channel. Don't ask for it, but it exists. Only lost 2 subscribers. At this point, our audience is built off of people that get what the conversation's all about, which is nuance, which is long form, which is trying to understand what the truths are. And sometimes that means ruffling feathers when we talk about purity culture or people that will take advantage of religion or politics to grift for whatever they're trying to sell. We call that out, right? As we best see it. Now, I'm no expert. I am guilty to whatever propaganda news sources that we consume here in the U.S., and I try my best to see through that and get to the truer story. So we're going to cover right now what was said by Ariel Frankel. We see her friends Davia, Serene, Jessica, Gerard. We see them sharing what Ariel said with their own side conversations, which is fantastic. So it's good to see that people are sharing this. I'm also going to share with you what Kaitlyn Bristowe said. If you didn't catch yesterday's Bachelor Rush Hour podcast, I'll play it here because it was on Instagram stories, which no longer exist. So, those go away. But anyway, here's what Ariel Frankel had to say. For those of you who are at a loss for words or being silenced, I will continue to use mine so you feel heard. I'm not the same person I was several years ago. I do not feel comfortable sharing like I once did on this platform. Social media is meant to be a window into my life to share with you all and connect with you all. My reality has become this. I have received countless messages from people that I deserve genocide, wishing death to my family and loved ones, being told I'm uneducated about my own history, that this is just a beginning, that this is what justice looks like, have attempted to deny the atrocities of the Holocaust or reappropriate it for their own argument, have attempted to deny or excuse rape, murder, kidnapping, and say it's Western media propaganda with inflated Israeli casualties, and even ask for proof of beheaded babies. Now, again, this is all in response to the video that we made the other day with regards to Ariel talking about and speaking out against the horror, the terror. No one would defend ISIS after 9/11. What they did by killing, by the casualties of civilians is a violation. It is barbaric. And what we're seeing play out over this past weekend is barbaric. And it's barbarism. And if we can't at least label it that, then we can't go further on with the conversation. Again, folks will respond and say, Dave, you're misled. It didn't start out of nowhere. It wasn't made in a vacuum. Absolutely. Does that excuse what happened over the weekend? No, not whatsoever. So anyway, she shared this. Let's go back to her story here and continue reading it. All I can think to do is share the pain my people are suffering. Innocent civilians slaughtered because they are Jewish. As a response to 1,200 plus civilian death toll in Israel, sentiment globally has spilled into anti-Semitic rhetoric. So this is not politics, this is bigotry and racism. People march at rallies chanting death to Jews. Jewish businesses are being vandalized. My Jewish friends and family feel unsafe globally. To the people that have reached out to me to ask how I'm doing and if my family and friends are safe, your words carry so much weight right now. I want to especially thank the Bachelor cast from my season for going out of their way to show their support both publicly and privately. To the people that have fallen quiet, who I've supported in their causes, marches, and suffering, your silence is deafening and will not be forgotten. And I'll just add to this. The innocent people that were attacked in Israel and the innocent people that are now being attacked in Palestine, we grieve for their losses. I don't think it's fair to even contextualize death, eye for an eye. As we know, eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. I don't know what Israel should do in response to this terrorist attack, but innocent lives will be lost, and on all sides, and again, it comes off like some all lives matter thing, but it's not. On all sides, innocent civilians did not ask for this, and they are all suffering, and it's sickening. Here's what Serene Russell had to say. She said, I haven't spoken on this yet because I just haven't had the words, and there are still things I don't fully understand. I am so heartbroken for all the innocent lives lost and those still in danger. For those who are fearful for their own lives or facing prejudice and hate because of who they are or where they were born, for those worried about their children, friends, and family, no one should ever have to experience what is happening in the world right now. Now, some people have celebrated what has happened with Hamas, and they relate it to freedom fighters who are just trying to protect their own territory. And it's like you have to know how to separate innocent people fighting for what they believe are injustices in Palestine. And you need to be able to separate that from the acts of terror that were committed. And unfortunately, I don't think some people can separate the two. Now, what I'm going to share with you right now from Kaitlyn Bristowe is why I respect her so much. You don't have to know everything about the topic to voice your opinions. You absolutely don't. But you can always lead with empathy if you do not know everything about the topic, and who does? I mean, you have to be a scholar to know. This goes back thousands of years, right? I mean, at the very least, even in the last century, books upon books upon books have been written about the intricacies of and the complexities of this, fight for Holy Land that exists, right? So either way, someone like Kaitlyn Bristowe can protect her brand. Kind of like what people like Hannah Brown do and Tayshia Adams. I mean, I don't know, maybe they've commented on this. I don't think so. But I use them as examples as the pinnacle people from the Bachelor world. We always look back, and again, I'm going to get to Kaitlyn in a second, but we always look back and say, with Hitler in World War II, how could they have just let this happen? And you might say, well, look, just talking about it on social media doesn't solve things, and that's true, but bringing awareness to what's going down in our world right now, bringing awareness. I get DMs from people in Israel that watch our channel. God bless you guys. We get DMs from people that don't feel safe, that are dealing with wild, and again, and I'm sure, and again, on the Gaza Strip, there is not one person that's better than the other when it comes to innocent civilians lost, right? So we understand when these people are crying out, they want the world to know what side we're all on here. And sadly, we've conflated being pro-Palestine with being pro-Hamas. You can be pro-Islam and not be pro-ISIS. Do you know what I mean? Does this make sense? Here's what Kaitlyn had to say. I have to play it for my podcast because it's no longer available on Instagram.
I knew this would happen. I knew as soon as I posted anything about standing with Israel, other people would come out and say they're unfollowing me for my lack of knowledge, or I'm doing this because it's trendy. And I just challenge those people. Hopefully they have already unfollowed me, but I challenge them to think about what this is really about. not all Palestinians represent Hamas.
True.
And I for sure could be uneducated. I absolutely could learn more. This to me isn't about what's trending or what side I'm on. This is about not standing for rape, for slaughtering, for kidnapping of innocent kids, teens, adults, elders. That's what is appalling and unacceptable to me. So the people that are saying, where were you when this happened? I'm just actually sick to my stomach, disgusted with what's happening, and not going to stay silent because I'm worried about some people taking this the wrong way and making it something else and unfollowing me. I'm sick to my stomach about this.
And I think that's a fair place to be. It's fair to feel horrible about what's going on out there. You know, we've had people reach out saying, oh, why don't you share this side? Here's one of the comments from somebody. What pisses me off is how nobody gave any shits when the same terror was happening to Palestinians. Doesn't take away from the current rage, but the same rage should be shown when Palestinians were the victims. And that's not a terrible stance to have. I would just argue, look, it's at a world stage. It's reached that critical mass where there are videos, photos, a nonstop coverage that shows everything from the beheading of babies to elderly people and all innocent lives. So while this may have happened in the past, let's just move forward and say enough is enough with the carnage. Enough is enough. But what we really need to do is all just get educated on what's actually going down here. And there are, protests that are anti-Jew, saying gas the Jews, and crazy things have emerged from these battles here, and it's ridiculous. And we need to remember these are innocent lives, and there has to be a better way. And again, trust me, they haven't solved the issue, so I'm not going to pretend like I have the solution. But there has to be better ways to do this than the bloodbath that we're watching spill out on our screens. We're going to continue this conversation after a quick word from our sponsors. All right, we're back, and let's just finish off what Kaitlyn has to say. And I got to tell you this, the amount of brass ovaries Kaitlyn Bristowe has for having this conversation and saying, I don't necessarily have to be right, but I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to learn. I'm going to educate myself, and I'm not going to stand for the senseless violence. I mean, it's a humanitarian crisis right now. When it's innocent children, innocent men, women, elderly, grandparents, when it's innocent, it is a violation of the Geneva Convention. It is an act of war and terror. And we're seeing now that this is exactly what they're calling it. Israel is at war with Hamas after unprecedented attacks. Israel says they have the right to defend themselves, but collective punishment of all Palestinians is unfair, says an EU diplomat. Of course, the war is not against Palestinians. We have to make sure people understand the war is with the terrorist group Hamas. That'd be like saying you don't have a war with the Afghani people, you have a war with Al-Qaeda or ISIS or whoever it is in the terror organization that you're discussing. It's so important that we don't conflate these things and say that Palestinians are, the Palestinian people don't support Hamas. And the question will become, how do you fight Hamas when they hide in tightly zoned areas, one of the most congested parts of the world in the Gaza Strip? Look, hey, it's a heavy conversation to have, you know what I mean? But anyway, let's finish up with Kaitlyn, what she has to say.
Majority of people on both sides of this want peace. This is an organized terrorist group. And they are going in and slaughtering Jewish people. And Jewish people, I have Jewish friends who are scared right now. Like, this is not the time to come and go, well, or, yeah, but no, that's disgusting behavior. And I hope you can see that.
All right, so apologies for some of the redundancies there as I played that clip. Again, I didn't have the original source with me as her Instagram stories disappear, but you get the point. What side of history do we want to be on? Again, is there a scenario where peace can come from all of this? You'd be foolish to say, well, absolutely. But there's always a way to work things out that isn't mass destruction. It appears as though, and I don't know where we stand as I make this video, that the Israeli military is going to do a full invasion of the Gaza Strip. And that means millions of people with the water and power and electricity and all these things cut off are hopeless. But, like I said before, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. I don't know what the solution is, but I think that's what's happening. And the place of privilege that we are in, that we can discuss this from relative safety here in the U.S., is one that we must acknowledge. Let me know what you guys think. Be respectful if you can. And that'll be it for me. I've got more content coming on Bachelor Rush Hour podcast, Dancing with the Stars updates, some other non-Bachelor news, and we'll be back right after this.